Tired of restless nights? At Lisa, we know good sleep is essential for mental, physical, and emotional health. From memory foam mattresses to hybrids that keep you cool all night long, Lisa's mattresses offer exceptional comfort and support with free delivery and 100 nights to try out your mattress in the comfort of your home. For a limited time, save up to $700 off select mattresses plus 2 free pillows. Go to lisa.com/iHeart for an additional $50 off mattresses and select goods. Exclusions apply. See lisa.com for more details.
CareerBuilder is made for people who have that thing. You know, those superpowers that make you good at your job, the skills you bring to work. And CareerBuilder knows those skills make you right for other jobs too. Higher paying jobs with benefits, jobs you never thought of trying. Are you a people person? Work from home as a customer service rep. Are you organized and like driving? Become a delivery driver. You have the skills it takes, and CareerBuilder.com has the jobs to get you hired fast. Visit CareerBuilder.com.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
And welcome to Tuesday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live here on Giants.com. I am at Giants WFAN. He is at Howard Cross 87. As always, this program is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll be here for the next hour to talk Giants football. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. If you're watching us on video, you see the number at the bottom of your screen. If you're not watching us on video and just listening to us, at least you now know where you can call us up.
You can call us up.
There you go. There's also hashtag Giants Chat on Twitter if you prefer. Interesting that this show, of course, as always, will be available later on today, an archive of it on our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcast. You may want to decide to listen to the program later on. Maybe not. I don't know. This is the first day of NFL free agency tagging, and so news can change literally by the hour.
It will.
That's just the nature of how this league works, Howard, and obviously for most Giants fans, they're going to want to know about what's going to happen to Saquon Barkley. The only thing I will say to you is this. To understand the rules of the tagging, you could start tagging today, and that open period for the tag ends 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on March 5th. So whatever happens today, you have a week to flop a tag on somebody. So
Wow.
Don't jump to any conclusions no matter what happens or does not happen today.
So let me ask you something. So if a person gets tagged, let's say today, he has to stay tagged the entire year.
No. You could do a deal. The tag can be just used as a holding spot.
Okay.
To extend negotiations.
Okay.
The week-long period we're talking about, though, is the duration under which you can tag somebody.
Okay.
So if you don't do it by March 5th at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time,
okay,
you can no longer tag the player.
So it's 1 week.
You have a week.
Wow.
Right? Well,
a little more than a week.
A little more than a week. Yeah, well, today's the 20th of February.
You have
so
2 weeks,
it's
basically.
It's about 2 weeks.
You have 2 weeks, okay.
It's about 2 weeks. I knew what the dates were. I just didn't know exactly where we were.
So it's going to be 2 weeks for them to make some decisions on some big players all around the league, and on our team it will be 1, 2, 6.
Well, now the interesting thing about Barkley is that, as you know, Joe Shane, the general manager, has already made it very clear that they've told Barkley's people they will talk to them at the Combine. The Combine starts next week, the 27th of February.
Yep.
That I can tell you. And whether or not they get there on the 26th or 27th, that's the bottom line. There'll be conversations between Joe and Barkley's people then. That would still allow them several days and almost a week.
It allows them basically a week.
Yeah.
No, not even a week.
6 days?
6 days.
6 days.
Yeah, 6 days.
6 days to have conversation before the Giants need to make a tag decision.
I'm pretty sure they're probably talking to him now.
Maybe.
If they're going to figure it out, they're probably trying to reach out now. But it'll be interesting to see. That's a lot of money for a tag for a running back.
Now, just remember one thing. There are two types of franchise tags. There's the exclusive and the non-exclusive. The exclusive means he can't talk to any other team while he's tagged.
Okay.
The non-exclusive does allow him to go out and have conversations and potentially agree to a deal with another team, but then there's the right of first refusal for the team.
Is it different money that the team pays for an exclusive versus a non-exclusive?
Oh no, it's still going to be 120% of the team of the player's previous year's salary, or the average of the top five of
top five
for the
in
last
the position.
5 years, or whatever it was of the
Okay.
cap. I mean, the exclusive, holds him in. Okay, and he can't talk to anybody else. The non-exclusive means he can at least talk to somebody else. But you still have that control over him in that you have the right of first refusal. You can match a deal.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'll just put it like this. If you're a player, if you're in Saquon's position or any other player in the league, and you're trying to figure out what your next moves are, how much longer you're going to be able to play, and you're trying to get a little guaranteed money moving forward, the franchise tag kind of works against you. It just does. It's one of those things where players are, damn if you do, damn if you don't kind of moment. You want to get paid. The franchise tag is for that year. You can get paid for that year, but then that's it. Then the following year, you got to figure out what's going to happen, and you got one more year of wear and tear on your body. Mm-hmm. It's a tough thing for players. I've always wondered about it. I know it helps teams out, helps them with the negotiation, but the players themselves. It's a tough deal. It's going to be some guys out there that's going to be on the street this year because somebody can't afford to tag him. Like a great example, Mike Evans. I think his tag number, if Tampa had to tag him, would be something like $28 million. The Jones from Kansas City, the Big D tackle,
like 35, right?
33 or something like that. But that's
ridiculous.
Those are big numbers if you tag these guys. So. I know what the intent was when they put it in place. It's going to be interesting these next few weeks to see what happens.
All right, 201-939-4513 is our phone number. Phone lines are lighting up like a Christmas tree, Howard. I think you're attracting these fans.
Somebody must be wanting to get at me.
So what did you do? What did you do? What did you say?
I didn't say anything. I've had people yelling at me, but I'm like, hey, man, you can't yell at me. I don't want to hear it.
Let's quickly get these promos out of the way so we can get to these calls because these people are really chomping at the bit to get a hold of us.
Oh, Lord.
Giants Huddle Podcast is always up on all the Giants podcast platforms. You'll hear from coaches, players, former players, experts. Mm-hmm. Go to giants.com/podcasts. And, of course, if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. Helps make sure that the program continues to thrive. Giants season memberships. Don't forget, they're now available for the 2024 season. To learn more all about the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. And then there's the Giants official connected TV streaming app, Giants TV. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, as well as the Giants mobile app. We have now gotten the promos out of the way, which means you are up next here on Big Blue Kickoff Live at 201-939-4513. We will go to Jason in New Haven. You're on line 2 and the first caller on today's program. Hello.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Very good.
Good. Thanks for taking my call. So just a few things I wanted to talk about. Kind of wanted to tie into the tag deadline and more importantly, Barkley. I think it's safe to say, we all love Barkley, what he's meant to the team. Mm-hmm. And it's just my opinion. I don't think I personally wouldn't resign him. He is getting a little older. And while he is a physical specimen, he's meant a lot to the team. He's a team leader. He has had a history of injuries since he got to us outside of his rookie year. And I just don't think we're in a spot right now to re-sign him. I mean, I guess it depends on what the contract would be. And I only say because time back, and I don't want to be revisionist history. What happened. I didn't particularly like the pick of taking him number 2 overall. And now we're in a situation now we have to kind of figure out, all right, what's his market value? does Shane even want to re-sign him going forward, outside of the leadership qualities, which we know he's a great leader, team leader, all that, which is great. But you're paying him for what you think he will be going forward. And I just don't know. I just don't know if we're at a point now. If we didn't want to re-sign him last year, I don't see how we re-sign him this year, and he's a year older with more mileage on his body. I don't know if you guys want to combat me on that, or if you want me to get to my next point.
You're right. He's had a lot of injuries. That's one of the things. Running backs get banged up a lot. He's around the lower extremities, also the ankle, the knee, things like that. He's been bouncing back pretty well. His body's been held up pretty good last year. Another year of wear and tear. The question is going to be, what kind of deal they're going to get. Like you're going to give a running back, even if he goes out in the market, it's going to be a 2-year deal at best. I don't know if they sign backs after your 5th year for longer than that. So the thing that probably scares everybody is like, hey, look, you don't sign Barkley. You let Barkley go out in the market, and all of a sudden he's wearing a star on his helmet. You don't want to see him 2 times a year. So that's kind of like the thing that fans and people that will be talking about, like, oh, why he comes in and rips off a 60-yard touchdown. Everybody be like, man, we should have signed that dude. But you can't know what somebody's health's going to be like. So he is a great leader. He's a great competitor. He's one of the guys that everybody rallies around. But what are you going to get when you pay him? That's going to be up to him, and and luck of the draw when it comes down to physical health and stuff for a season.
Right. And I think we're at a point now where I think we're at a point now with our team where we can afford to downgrade at the running back position if it helps upgrading the offensive and defensive lines. And I remember I called last week. I don't know if I talked to Paul or John or whoever, but I forgot. But to me, I've always said building a running game is dependent on scheme and the line, and a stable of, I won't say cheap running backs, but less expensive running backs, to me, is the more smarter and prudent move in today's NFL. Maybe in the 90s, 80s, early 2000s, you could have those bell cows that could get 200, 250 carries. I just don't see us doing that. If you could tell me, all right, the money is going to be spent towards Saquon, or let's just say 2 very good, whoever, I can't name anybody right now, but 2 very good offensive linemen, whether that be a guard, a tackle, or 2 guards, or whoever, I'm taking the lineman, and I can find a running back in the draft, or I can find a cheaper veteran to supplement that running back by committee. And my other point, I called last week, I'm a big believer in Shane and Dable. I think a lot of this chatter with what's going on in the off season, with coaches leaving and whatever the case may be, I think is, I just think it was a bunch of noise. Personally, I'm not in the building, but that's just my opinion. The one thing I will, if I could critique them a little bit, is about the competition. And last year, Paul and Howard, I was kind of confused on some of the roster construction for the offensive line, and maybe you guys could tell me because you're in the building. But I'm saying that is because, first of all, the team wasn't prepared for Thomas to fall in that first game. I mean, there's nothing they could have done. But I think you have to prepare for those things. And when I say, I'm not saying that they didn't, but frankly, the rest of the line in the game 1 versus Dallas played poorly. And in my opinion, Shane, to me, was slow to respond, and the coaches showed an unwillingness to play Peart. Has Peart been an all-pro tackle? No. But I don't understand why they didn't play Peart, but then you move a guard and a Zudu to tackle.
Peart was also hurt.
He was hurt.
Oh, he's okay. All right. Well,
that's why he wasn't next up. He was injured.
So what happened was that, like, Thomas goes down. I think Neal catches an ankle or a knee, so he's going to fight through it and fight for the rest of the season. You lose one guard, your center goes down. Now you move your guard over to center, and then all of a sudden you get
guard playing left tackle.
You got a guard off the couch playing left tackle.
It was like a Rubik's Cube.
So it wasn't that they were slow to react. It just they couldn't react fast enough to keep pulling bodies from places. They were going to other teams, going through their practice squad groups, pulling guys out. Hey, you could play. Come over to the Giants. We need you this week.
Just remember, they had to grab Pugh off the couch.
Yeah,
just remember that.
They were pulling guys from everywhere.
No, that's true.
Yeah, so it's not, when you got guys going down, you just got to roll with it. You just got to
the truth is, there are not enough quality offensive linemen throughout the NFL. I mean, it's tough enough to field 5 starters for 32 teams.
Yep.
Never mind have enough quality backups for these teams. See, that's why I laugh when people talk about expanding the NFL. You don't have enough good quarterbacks and you don't have enough good offensive linemen.
You definitely don't have enough linemen.
To add teams. You just don't.
Right. And you guys are absolutely right. But my thing was, you had Tyree Phillips in the building. You for whatever reason, which is their prerogative, they're in practice with him every day in the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You let him go. He goes to Philly. We pluck him back from the practice squad, and he ends up playing, I won't say great, but he was respectable. I mean, he gave us some good quality snaps. So that's kind of my confusion with some of the decisions that were made. Like you let Tyree Phillips go, but then you put a guard at left tackle.
They were just pulling straws at that point. And you got to also remember at that time Saquon was out. So you had a lot more pressure being emphasized on the quarterback himself. It was almost like if you thought you were a sitting duck before, now look what's going to happen with all these guys out. So even when you let guys go and bring guys back and you're doing things, you think you're doing what's best for the team at the moment, but injuries can make a whole lot look different for you real quickly.
Right. And three guys, and I'll take it up there because I got you another callers. McKinney, I would like him back. Doesn't seem, now I'm not his agent, I'm not in those meetings, but it doesn't seem like he's going to take a hometown discount, and neither should, nor should he. I believe every player should get what they feel they deserve and what the team is going to pay them. So I'm fine with that. But there are some other good safety. I won't go through the list, but there's some really intriguing. If we're not able to come to an agreement with McKinney for whatever the reason, there's some really. I won't go through the list because it'll be too long. But there's some really interesting safety options and 2 other free agent players I would like to look at outside of the Giants. One name, and I love my pass rushers. I always mention it. We need to beef up our pass rush and our D-line. He's our next door neighbor who we don't like. He's a Jet, Bryce Huff. If I'm not mistaken, he's top 5 in pass rush win rate. Now, he's been a part-time player, but he's still young. I believe he's 25, and he had 10 sacks last year. And then my second player, and I'll take it off the air, is Trent Brown. I know we have Neil. I get it. But like I called a few weeks ago, I think Paul, or I forgot who I was speaking to, I believe we need some competition for Neil. And I get his circumstances have been injuries, whatever the case may be. But for right now, he just hasn't been playing well. And I get the injury thing, Howard. I'm not taking the injury out of the equation.
Oh no, I'm not saying anything. He knows he needs to play better.
But I think going into 2024, we need some competition. And thank you guys for taking my call.
All right.
Thank you so much. It'll be interesting to see what Carmen Brasillo, the new offensive line coach, thinks about these offensive linemen as he now gets into the building. And he gives the Giants front office some of his evaluations off of the tape because he's got to have some ideas as to what he thinks he can do with these folks. I mean, that input's going to be very valuable, Howard.
I think it is. I think, what's been kind of weird for the last few years is how they're not able to, quote unquote, figure out the twist and be able to pick guys up in rotations around them.
That's amazing.
Just
I know.
Different coaching staffs and everybody's coming through, these guys and different players just not really being able to pick it up. And it seems to work so well when I'm watching it. It's going to be interesting if he can figure out a way. And again, the main reason you can't do it because if you hadn't been doing it the whole time and you're going to make somebody do it without full pad practice and moving, it's hard to do. Yeah. You can walk through it 1,000 times. You can do all the really nice pajama drills. It just takes time to learn and learn your guys. And when you're rotating guys in and out from injury and everything else, it becomes even harder to do. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to, quote unquote, first teach these guys how to do this part of the thing. Hey, look, we're going to pick it up like this. We're going to work it together. Can we do it? And everybody's got to be able to do it. And no matter who's standing beside you, you got to be able to do it and know what you're looking for.
You know what, Howard? I'm glad we had that call and that comment, because what I'm going to do is go back to the Raiders tape from this past season and look at the sacks that they gave up and see how many times they were on stunts and twists.
Yeah.
Because it was clearly a very, very hot sore spot for the Giants all season long.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how often did the Raiders' offensive line have trouble with those things. First of all, how many times were they run? Did they get a lot of it?
Yep.
And then how did they pick it up?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's not just the Raider game. I mean, I think it started in the Dallas game. They were doing a lot of it, and it just flourished from there. And once you get, as we say, they don't really do tape anymore. But once you put something on tape, people are like, okay, so if that's the recipe, I'll cook that same dish. So,
Copycat
yeah.
201-939-4513. We have some open lines. We go to Phil in North Carolina. You're next on BBKL. Hello.
Hey, guys. Hey,
Hi.
thanks for the show. It's always very good. And Howard, thanks for everything you did for the Giants. Two questions. One is regarding the cap. And the question I have is that the cap gives you over the cap gives you the available cap availability or how much they have. But does it doesn't factor in the number of players that are free agency and how many people you have signed already on the club, right? For example, say if we have a lot of free agents, internal free agents. Mm-hmm. Say we have 20 internal free agents. It doesn't factor in that. We need money to replace those bodies, those 20 bodies. Is that correct?
The way the cap works is, let's say it's $100 bill is the cap, and you have 52 guys that you're going to basically pay for that. When the season's over, some of those guys become free agents, and they're going to want more money. The more money they want may take you outside the cap. So the cap doesn't really change depending on the bodies themselves. The NFL has what they call a hard cap. So no, it doesn't take into the factor if a guy like McKinney or Saquon or whoever isn't signed. That's just money the cap hasn't spent yet. So if you say you have $30 million or $40 million or $10 million or whatever the number is, you have to sign your players within that cap hit to try to get them in. Plus sign all your quote unquote draft players and players you pick up in free agency.
I think, caller, what you're asking is the money committed under the cap based on what Over the Cap is saying? And yes, when they give you the list on Over the Cap, for those of you who don't know, overthecap.com is a salary cap specialty website that has unofficial breakdowns of all the cap information in the NFL.
Yep.
They give you the money that is committed. So, for example, right now for the New York Giants page, this is, again, unofficial. This is not league stuff. This is through this independent organization. They have the Giants listed with 51 active players and committed for their top 51 players over $207 million, suggesting that the team cap space as we speak is about 19.5.
Okay.
Now, that is A, those are unofficial numbers, and B, that can be fluid because you can redo deals with guys, change cap numbers, and then every time you sign a new guy or re-sign a guy, that also impacts the number.
Yep.
So don't get too bent out of shape when you look at a site like that and see something and go like, oh my God, what are they going to do? They have a lot of fluidity within those numbers that you're seeing on the web.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not so worried about the exact number. I'm worried about whether it's normalized by the number of players that are there. So, for example, you gave the example. Say if we really only, because we have like 20 people that are hitting free agency, do we have 51 people signed?
Yes.
I don't think we do.
Yes.
Well, now, but not when March hits, we don't have 51 people signed.
As of now, Over the Cap is suggesting the Giants have 51 total active players who are committed to contracts as it stands right now. Mm-hmm. And then of course, there's another whole list of guys who are free. You know what? You want me to count? I'll count it up for you exactly. You really want to know? I'll count it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Talk to the man while I count.
He's counting. I'm like, what's he counting? I'm looking over here. He's got a piece of paper out. Basically, like I said, the cap, like if you have 53-man rosters, basically, and then you have the guys that are what they call practice squad guys.
31.
So we have
31 guys who are either unrestricted or restricted free agents or exclusive rights free agents. 31 guys.
So out of 53 guys,
and they have 51 guys who do have a current contract committed for the season.
That's impossible.
Okay.
You know that,
No,
right?
it's not, because during the
you
off-season,
got 83 players.
Yeah, during the off-season, you have all the injured guys come back.
Yeah.
All the guys who are on injured reserve come back.
Okay.
Your practice squad guys, you signed the future reserve deals.
That's true.
So you have 51 guys right now who have a contract. 31 guys don't. Is that the number you were looking for?
Yeah, because I'm really interested, when you compare that over the cap number by team, it's really a little bit not very specific, because one team can have a large turnover and the other team can have a small turnover, and therefore it's not an apples-to-apples number.
It's never that way. It's never that way because your free agent list may have a bunch of starters on it and high-profile players on it who are going to require big money if you're going to squeeze them back onto your team. And conversely, if you're active guys under contract or your guys who you're committed to, if you've got a bunch of guys there who are futures and practice squad guys, well, then that's going to lower that number. It's going to make it very deceiving. I understand that. Yeah, you're seeing it right.
Okay. That's because that's a big thing. So anyway, all right. So that was my one point. The other point is this with draft coming up. I'm a big draft person.
Okay.
This concept, and I understand why you guys say this, but you talk about the word conviction. When you have conviction for a player, you get them. I still am slightly uneasy when that's used, that word conviction, because there's still, even though you may have conviction, the probability of you landing on the right person is still not 100%, right? We always say, what's the odds in the first round are maybe X. In the second round, it might be slightly lower. In the third round, it might be slightly lower. But we still can't have 100% certainty, even though you have conviction.
Well,
so I'm right. Well, that's how I look at it.
The view of it is this: you're drafting a player off his tape, off his combine, off of all the stuff he did in the past. That's what he promotes. That's how he's promoted himself, basically. When he shows up to your team, if that's not the same guy, or if he doesn't do the same thing, or if he gets hurt, your conviction can be whatever it is. It depends on the person. Like the players show up. A lot of players come into the league. They want to be the best player ever at their position. They work the hardest. They listen. They're in early. They're out late. They're getting it done. Some players come in and, you thought that they wanted to be that guy, but they get, the money changes them a little bit. They making a little money, they get a little complacent, and all of a sudden they're looking at the game from the outside. So it's hard to say what a guy's going to become. You do a lot of research, you ask a lot of questions, you give him a lot of IQ tests and personality tests, and you talk to everybody. You talk to his team, his coaches, his friends, his family. You just do all that you can to try to quote unquote, figure this out for when you get a guy in. You just don't know what it's going to be.
I agree. But so I just wanted to temper this concept of conviction because of that. There still is uncertainty.
Phil, I've got some numbers for you. We're going to let you go, and then I want you to hold on and listen to the program because I got something that's really going to go right up your alley.
Uh-oh.
Thank you so much for the call. 201-939-4513. The point that we talk about often here, Howard, when you're not on the program, but it still stands. If a team in that draft room is all in and they have conviction that this is the guy, we all agree, this is the guy we need to take, well, then you got to take him. You do all the research. You go through all the tape. You look at the games. You do all the background research. You do all the medicals. If you really believe that that's the guy we have to take, then you've got to take him. because you can only base your decision on the amount of information that you have culled. Now, having said that, to the caller's point, it is not an exact science. I'm going to give you some numbers here, Howard, because I did the research. You're not going to find this anywhere else because it's my personal research.
Into the Pauly closet.
Well, this is what I do. NFL draft. Since 2000, I went from 2000 to 2020 because anyone who was drafted in 2021 in the first round still has that fourth-year option.
Yeah.
So their first contracts are not over yet, so I did not want to include them in this list.
Okay.
From 2000 to 2020, there were 210 players taken in each of the first 100 slots in the draft.
Okay.
Picks 1 through 10 overall, there have been 117 Pro Bowl players.
Okay.
Out of 210, that is only 55%.
Okay.
So if you're picking between 1 and 10 overall in the draft, history shows us over the last 20 plus years, that guy's got a 55% chance of making at least one Pro Bowl during his career.
Okay.
That's it. Only 55%, which shows you how it's not an exact science. Overall picks between 11 and 20, 93 of 210 have made the Pro Bowl. That's 44%.
Okay.
Picks 21 to 30, and I broke it down by sections of 10.
Okay.
Picks 21 to 30, 63 of the 210 players have gone to a Pro Bowl, 33%.
Last picks in the first round, basically.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, we know 32 picks in the first round, but for the purposes of this one, I broke it down by 10. We'll just keep it right there, which means if you're picked in the first round, basically, give or take a couple percentage points, you've got a 43% chance of making the Pro Bowl, which is less than half.
Okay.
So to the caller's point, you can have as much conviction as you want. History tells you you may not get a superstar.
My question is this. When you're drafting a guy, I know everybody you draft, you hope they're going to work out and they're going to be the greatest player ever. But do you draft a player in the first round thinking, I'm drafting a Pro Bowl player?
The fans seem to think so.
Oh, okay. Unless it's like you're drafting a quarterback or something, I've never really looked at a guy and go like, oh, he's a Pro Bowl player. When I look at a lineman, I think he could play for 15 years if he wants to. I never think about the Pro Bowl.
I think that's the right way to look at it because that's how you build a team.
If I'm drafting a guy, I'm like, that guy's going to be around here for a long time. He's going to be a good player for a long time, and that's what I'm hoping for when you're drafting a team. If I draft a guy, that guy could be a Pro Bowler. He might have a bad ankle, he might have a bad knee, he might have a bad shoulder, he might make 2 Pro Bowls, but he'll only be around for 5 years. That's a bad draft pick. You want your guys, if you can, to get to their second contracts, maybe even almost a third contract. If you can keep the core of them together, that's what you're hoping for. But it is no exact science because you have no idea. We've had some great players drafted here in the first round. We had some players that never really made a dent in the first round, and it varies.
To your point, Howard, I love when people and I brought this up last week on the show. I love when people talk about Eric Dorsey, who was a first-round pick by the Giants, okay? Back, and I want you to look at this, 1986, and look at this. He played 7 seasons with the Giants, and for most of those seasons, he was a starter.
Yeah.
When he wasn't, it was because he was hurt or he was a rotational player when he first came into the league with George Martin.
Okay.
Okay? Eric Dorsey was on 2 Super Bowl championship teams and was a very productive player. Yet there are those fans out there who will say he was a first-round pick. He was a bust. He didn't give us what we wanted to get. To your point, Eric Dorsey was a quality football player who contributed to a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
Very good player.
He didn't make a Pro Bowl, but I think you would be very happy to have him again. Wouldn't you?
I would be happy to have a guy that could play like that strong and can move men, as we say. He was a great player.
He's a great example for what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, but there's a lot. I mean, we've had players that played a long time on a team and didn't make Pro Bowls that were first-round picks. But as long as they're there for a long time, and I think my draft here was Brian Williams. He played forever. I don't know if he made a Pro Bowl or not, but he played.
Never
forever.
did. Never did. And well, the eye thing.
Oh yeah,
the eye injury.
Once he got thumbed in the eye, that was
really
derailed him. Yeah.
You know, but again, just to review, top 10 picks since the 2000 season. Only 117 of the 210 have gone to at least one Pro Bowl. That's 55%. So understand that even though the Giants are picking 6, it's almost a flip of a coin as to whether or not they're going to get a Pro Bowl player.
And I'm not going to pick on Paul, but also you have to remember that when he says Pro Bowl player, that means that you could get to the Pro Bowl because the guy that was in the Pro Bowl didn't want to go.
So they went 6 deep.
And you're an alternate. So that list could be even shorter.
It could be. Yeah. It could be. But the point stands, Howard, is that nothing's automatic.
No,
that's the point.
No, nothing's given.
And I don't think enough of people truly understand that.
Yeah.
All right,
you can draft a kid in the 6th round. He can play 13 seasons.
I hear you. I'm pointing for those of you who can't see the screen.
Or Jesse Armstead was an 8th round pick?
Yes, he was.
8th round pick, perennial Pro Bowler.
5.
Yeah.
5.
So, yeah, you can't really determine that.
Okay. Line 3, Jeff from Maine. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
What's up, Jeff?
Afternoon, gentlemen. First of all, it's an honor to talk to you two guys. You're my 2 favorite on the show, and a true long-term Giants fan.
You're very kind.
Just like most of the callers. And you already talked a little about the question I have, which is picking up stunts on the offensive line, which we were bad at last year. Now, our defensive coordinator last year, Wink Martindale, didn't run many stunts in practice. So presumably, we didn't see that many stunts from the offensive line to go against in practice. And I know that the new defensive coordinator runs a lot of stunts. So again, presumably, they'll see more stunts in practice. So I'm wondering if that might help them pick it up more in games, if that could have an effect.
It can. It also goes with like the coaching and how the coaching kind of goes and the guys, how they learn it. The thing that's hardest now, I'm an old guy, so I have to keep saying this over and over. They don't really get to practice like they used to practice anymore. So there's no full contact practices, especially during the season. I think you're allowed 7 padded practices for the entire season once the season starts. So you have to try to get, these mini camps to get these guys to go through these drills and rep them. Then you got to try to get them together at other times and trying to rep them within the parameters of the union. But you try to get as many reps at it as possible. And once you get into camp, if the defensive coordinator is running a lot of twists and a lot of stunts, they will see it a lot. That will help them, but it won't help them if you're not padded and you're not going through it. It's a lot of leverage and being able to properly push a guy off at the right time to pick up the next guy.
Of course, the other thing to keep in mind too is that the Giants had so many combinations of people along the offensive line. It was very, very difficult. And again, it's not an excuse, but it's certainly part of the reason why if I've got a different guy next to me every 2 or 3 games, my chemistry with him and picking up those stunts is going to be more difficult.
And if somebody's getting beat a lot, that will make that will immediately make the stunts look much worse. If one guy's getting beat, then you'll try to hang to help him out a little bit more.
And then what happens? You get beat.
Then you get beat. So it was all kinds of things going on with these guys last year.
No question.
Again, especially guys injured. One guy's injured. Okay, I got to help him out a little bit more. Stunts inside, you're lost. Like, okay, so what are we going to do? So hopefully there'll be a lot more health. They'll be healthier throughout the year, and we'll see a lot more of the ability to pick up that stuff.
Now, I will say this, Jeff, and Howard, again, feel free to agree or not.
Okay.
I do think that the sooner the Giants figure out who their starting 5 offensive linemen are going to be, the better. And I'd like to see that unit get some significant snaps during the preseason. I get the fact that there's an injury risk, but to me, if those guys are not working together and not starting to form some kind of bond on the field, to me, it's counterproductive. And what good is it if you have guys who are healthy if they don't know what each other are going to do?
Yeah. Well, I think that, with this day and age, it depends on if the coaches are in on it, if Joe's in on it, if they'll let them go into preseason games and play. It's tougher now because people are so worried about injuries, but it's better, in my opinion, if you go out there and you play. If you get injured, then you know that guy's not going to be around, so you can get somebody else in and get it started. Everybody else doesn't look at it that way.
Some people don't.
An injury in preseason is a lot better than an injury in the first game. So, so that's how I look at it. But you gotta have to know it's kind of hard to do.
Of course, in preseason, the opposing defense probably won't run as many of their best stunts. They're probably saving them in their back pocket for the
That's
season.
okay. That's okay, because what you're trying to do when you play your five together is to form that bond and togetherness. It doesn't matter what they're seeing. It's a matter of them getting to know each other.
And what you're also hoping for is that when you get the thing they like to do now more than anything else is practice against other teams. When they have those practices against other teams, that's when they see a lot of stunts and a lot of things.
Yeah.
Coaches will ask the other coach, hey, run some stunts against us, run this, what do you want to see? And they try to help each other out. They get to know each other that way.
We'll see if the Giants do that again this year. They had the Detroit Lions last year out in Michigan as part of that dual practice thing, and we haven't heard if they plan to do it again.
Well, that was very informative. I do have another offensive line question if you have time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I heard that PFF said something about our offensive line last year. I know it was not just the worst in the league, but like the worst they've seen in like 20 years. So to me, that speaks to that being our number one problem, even more so than the skill positions for offense.
Did you really need somebody to tell you that? Were you watching the games?
No.
Did you see who was playing the games?
Wow.
And the combinations that they had to use every week? Maybe it wasn't that obvious to you, but it should have been.
No, it was definitely obvious, and that's just my point. So in the draft, we're going to probably have the chance to pick the best offensive lineman at number 6 without even having to trade up.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's a no-brainer. And I guess my question is, if we do get Joe Alt, from what you know of him, would he have both a high ceiling and a high floor, and do you think he could start right away? And I'll take my answer up there.
Well, the thing with Joe Alt is this. Joe Alt is a perennial left tackle and was a left tackle his entire career, I believe.
Exactly.
So if he came in, you would probably be trying to move him either inside to guard or outside to right tackle, one of those two positions to try to, quote-unquote, bolster your lines. But I don't know which tackle they're going to pick. I don't know which guy. I've seen several different tackles ranked. The guy in Penn State, the guy out of, I think, Oregon somewhere. They've got a bunch of guys at a tackle that can play. The thing is that there is so much depth this year at offensive line in the draft. You're going to be able to get a guy in the first round, a guy in the second round, a guy in the third round. They're all going to be really good players. This is like one of those receivers drafts where there's a ton of receivers also that you're going to see. But I don't know who they're going to pick, when they're going to pick them. I don't know, what the circumstances might be. There could be trades. There could be anything. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. But there are going to be some really good offensive linemen that are going to be coming out in this draft.
By the way, since the 2000 draft, offensive tackle has been the most picked player at number 6 overall.
By the Giants?
Of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Of the number 6 overall picks, there have been 24 since 2000. Offensive tackle was taken 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
I had originally broken down defensive line as one position. I separated it the other night.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive tackle was 4, which was the second most taken position. To be quite frank with you, I get it, but the 2 guys who were supposedly consensus top 10s this year are both tackles again. Fashanu and, of course, Alt is the number 1 guy on most people's boards. You do have to, like Howard said, you got to figure out, okay, now if we're going to ask them to play right tackle, in Alt's case,
can he do it?
Can he do it? He's going to have to flip. Some people say it's easy. Some people say it's hard.
I mean, in Alt's case, Alt was like a basketball player, a tight end for a long time. He didn't get to be tackled till later on in his career, I believe, right?
Right.
So that would give him a little more access to be able to flip if you had to.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of things you have to look into. But you'd have to ask him though. You'd have to see if he can do it and talk to him about it. And I'm sure that when he goes to quote unquote the combine, he's sitting around, he's talking to guys. They're going to ask him right there. Could you play right tackle? Could you? And there's not going to just be the Giants asking him. There's going to be a lot of teams are going to ask him.
Yeah, for sure. And we know that there are some players who express a very strong desire. Oh, I'm a left tackle and I'm not moving. We've heard that.
Yeah.
We've heard players say that before.
Absolutely. And,
if you're an organization, you want to know that.
It's hard because, everything has a price tag on it. That's the main reason. The left tackle's like the most important lineman, protects the quarterback's blind side. He makes the most money, from all the other linemen. He's a premium position. It's like I think it's quarterback, left tackle, pass rusher, and cornerback, and receiver. And then everybody else kind of fits in under those guys. But a left tackle, if you're coming out of the draft and they're talking to you about we would like to draft you, but can you play right tackle? The answer should be yes. I can play anywhere you want me to, but as money is concerned, a lot of guys are going to say up front, I prefer to play left tackle.
Yeah. 201-939-4513. We have lines open. We go to line 1. Len in Maryland, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, Len.
Hey guys. How you doing?
Very good.
Hey, looking forward to the next 10 weeks, today through the draft.
Mm-hmm.
This is when we get better.
I hope so.
When we get better. Yeah, me too. There you go, Howard. There you go. Thank you for saying that, because it allows. I don't think you've heard me say this. I know Paul has heard me say this before. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you my general manager's philosophy.
Uh-oh.
You don't have to get worse before you get better.
That's a good answer.
You just got to get better. And these next 10 weeks give us that opportunity to do that. Hey, quick one on Joe Alt. What position did his father play?
No idea.
It was a tackle.
He was a left tackle, Paul.
Yeah.
I think the boy's been brought up to be a left tackle.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I wouldn't fool with trying to switch Joe Alt.
I agree with you, which is why I would be very leery. If you're the Giants, you're not moving Thomas. If you take Alt, then you're basically saying he's going to be a right tackle. I'm a little sketchy on that.
Yeah. I think he's going to be a terrific player. Howard, before I drafted him, though, I would look very closely at the Louisville tape and the Duke tape from last year.
Mm-hmm.
He had a tough time.
Yeah, he did.
Both those games. He had a tough time. He's going to be a good football player.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, to get better, to start getting better.
Yeah. And by the way,
the
only pimple on your initial statement is that the salary cap forces you to get rid of talented players that you would otherwise want to continue your building with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So to be frank, I think you have a nirvana kind of philosophy there that's just not possible in reality.
Well, all right. But I also know, going into this year, into the next 10 weeks, that the replacement for Barkley and the replacement for McKinney, and to some extent the replacement for Adoree Jackson at cornerback, are not on this roster. They're not there. If one, I think we get worse. We don't get better. We get worse.
Well, we'll see.
Yes, for sure. And that's why I'm hoping that at least 2 of those 3 guys remain on the on the Giants.
You're not high on Dane Belton. I mean, it's possible he is your other starting safety this year.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to comment on Belton.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad he's on our team. Okay, I think he plays a specific role. If you play a 3-safety look, guys, Belton can play and do his thing. If you ask Belton to cover anybody, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. He can't cover.
Well, last year at the end of the year, he did okay because he was forced into action.
One-on-one, Howard. He's not that guy. Okay. I'm glad he's on the team because we can play him in a 3-safety look. I don't see him as McKinney's replacement.
McKinney's kind of a Pro Bowler, though. It's kind of hard to say.
You're going to get worse if McKinney McKinney isn't on the.
I will give you 2 things to chew on before you make your final decision on this. Number 1, Belton always seems to be around the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He seems to make big plays and does seem to turn the tide for the defense when he's on the field. Keep that in mind. So he may be more impactful than you think.
Well,
that's number 1. That's number 1. Let me give you number 2. Let me give you number 2. Let me give you number 2. Number 2.
Sure.
Javarius Owens was a safety drafted on the 3rd day last year who never really got on the field this past season. He was basically a redshirt safety. They really like his tools an awful lot. Don't sleep on him.
Okay, can I respond, Paul?
Go right ahead.
Let me respond to the Belton one. I didn't say I didn't want Belton on the team. I just want to say how you use Belton is important. Yes, he did that, but I'd like to know.
Understood. He does make plays.
I'd like to know what kind of defense they were in when he made those interceptions. And my guess is they were in a 3-safety look.
No, I think the safety was out. I think hurt his knee already.
Yes, he had.
Remember, Pinnock missed a little bit of time.
That's when Pinnock when Pinnock went out of the game. There was only 2 safeties in the game at that point.
Good, Howard. And let me add this, a positive about Belton. He really played. He surprised me in that last game against the Eagles. Mm-hmm. He really played well.
Yeah, he did.
He really did play well. I mean, it was no question. Paul, with regard to your numbers, the 55% out of the first 10 picks since 2000. What we need for the next 3 or 4 years is 3 or 4 55%ers, Paul.
Hey, great.
That's pretty awesome.
We need 3 or 4 in a row. We need 3 or 4 in a row because what we really need on this team, and this is a generalization, Howard, but I hope you can work with me with this.
Okay.
We need stars on this team. We need stars. Let's look at the 49ers for just a second, and I'll do this real quick. You can afford to have Feliciano at right guard and Brenly at center when you've got McCaffrey, Kittle, Tebow Samuels, and Trent Williams on your offense, and Purdy at quarterback. You can afford those kinds of offensive line. I mean, they are marginal NFL starters. But when you got stars, when you surround them with guys like Debo and McCaffrey, you got to have stars. You got to have people who go to the Pro Bowl. I mean, we got Dexter. God bless him. Love him. Thank God. All the rest. But man, we got to. And McKinney is emerging toward that point. I think he's about to explode. It's such a drop off if Barkley's not on this team. And Paul, as you said last week, if you're not going to pay, what are you not going to pay? I'm just going to make up a number. You're not going to pay 11.
Just say X.
11 million?
Just say X. It doesn't matter what the number is. X. Just say X.
Okay. Yeah. You're not going to pay Barkley 11 million. You're going to go pay Pollard 9 million. Or Josh Jacobs?
No, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, it doesn't make any. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. Hey, listen. Thanks for taking my call. Let's have a big next 10 weeks, Giants.
I hope so.
Thanks, Len. Anything you wanted to add?
I just think that you don't get Pro Bowlers every time you draft. I appreciate guys wanting everybody to be a Pro Bowler, everybody to be a star. I think that having a Christian McCaffrey he eliminates a lot of plays, for players. I think having a Debo Samuels eliminates a lot of plays for players. Debo's running balls out of the backfield. He's catching 5-yard routes and running over 2 DBs and a safety before you get him down. Like it's just you got to have big, strong guys that are going to do things in certain positions. When you get in drafts like the Giants have an opportunity this time, this early in the draft, it could be anybody. I know we've talked about Joe Alt. It could be one of the top 3 quarterbacks could fall to the Giants if something goes on. Like it could literally be anybody. One of the top receivers will probably be there in the draft. Like there's going to be so many guys like that look like all of them look they can't miss guys. They just got to get here and perform. They got to figure out a way to get it done.
In reference to the offensive line, Len, just to cap off your conversation, the bottom line, and I remember Parcells taught me this long ago, and heck, you were coached by Coach Parcells. Mm-hmm. Coach Parcells used to say, in terms of you're only as strong as your weakest link, especially in the offensive line. That's where it really comes to play more than any other position. And the idea is that you don't want to have an Achilles heel on the line that's going to force you to abandon parts of your playbook because he's just not functional enough. He's just not good enough where we can't do X, Y, and Z because that guy can't block it. That's where it becomes a problem. You need 5 guys up front that are good enough to run anything in your playbook. That's the point. Because once you start throwing chapters out of your playbook, you're at a disadvantage.
I'll say it like this. I told people all last year, all during the season, I'm like, if you got 4 flat tires, you're not going to be able to run the ball, throw the ball.
That's
do
it.
anything.
That's for sure.
I think when it comes down to offense,
we had a busted transmission last year too.
And I think when it comes down to offensive alignment, the most important thing is first off availability. They got to be healthy, right? Once they're healthy and you know you can count on them being healthy, then you can teach them to do things. Then you get it. Like I knew last year when the season started, we were in preseason, we were watching, we were talking about asking coaches, like, position by position. And he's like, well, we're going to try to figure out which of these 3 guards are going to be our 2 starters. When he said that, I was like, oh no. I got nervous. I'm like, this is not good. So this year we're hoping that, watching everything, you start to see some guys like, pick their heads up. These are the guys you're going to be. You got a left tackle. You got a center. Do you know you have a left guard and a right guard? That's going to be the question. Do you know you have a right tackle? I mean, Evan Neal wants to be the right tackle, but, he's going to have to, really, step his game up. Injuries or no injuries, he knows he's got to come around and do a little bit more than what he was doing last year. He had some decent games last year when he was healthy. When he wasn't healthy, it's a tough – I can't – you're out there. If you're healthy enough to be on the field, you got to still fight. And you got to figure out a way to make it happen. So he's going to have a lot to prove this offseason for himself. He wants to do more. I'm sure he'll do whatever it takes to be on the field. But as far as the line goes, like I said, this is a draft that there are incredible linemen probably in the first 4 rounds. So just keep your eye out for them. There are going to be a lot of guys that are going to be, I thought he's going to be a first rounder. You'll be able to give him the second round. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with these guys.
We go back to the phones. Jerome in Charlotte, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, guys. I love the show. Always
Thank you.
Good listener. I like to talk about the offense for a quick minute, and I think we need to, if we can get a quality quarterback we don't have a quarterback to lead us to the Super Bowl on our team right now. And I think we need to grab one whenever we can, either in the first round or the second round, and we need a number 1 receiver. Whichever order they choose, first or second, whichever, but that's what we need. And I'm glad I have y'all 2 veterans. I'm a truck driver. My company is based in right outside of Dallas, Texas, so I get in a lot of cowboys and dates.
Yeah.
And I told them that if they did pressures and hit, what's the other word they use?
Stunts and blitzes
against quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sacks, it's pressures, and it's
hits.
And it's quarterback hits. Actually, it's hurries. It's pressure. It's hurries, hits, and sacks all combined equal pressures. That's the number you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I told them when I was what I call the yard, where our company is based at, that if they did that if they were marking that back in Lawrence Taylor Day, Michael Parsons would never be equal to Lawrence Taylor, because Lawrence Taylor numbers will be so high that nobody can even be compared to him.
Well, listen, I like Michael Parsons. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's exciting. He reminds me probably – everybody keeps saying Lawrence Taylor, but he's more like a Jesse Armstead type. Same body type, same size, same kind of quickness. He's not Lawrence Taylor's size. Like, he's not a Carl Banks size. We're talking guys that are 6'4", 6'5", 250, 260. It's just different. I know people like to say bigger, faster, stronger now. It's not really true. The guys were a lot bigger back when I played. They were a lot faster when I played. And you were able to hit people without consequence. So,
you mean they didn't play flag football then?
So, like Michael Parsons, I was talking to a Hall of Famer the other day that in my mind, Michael Parsons kind of reminds me of Ronnie Lott. Michael Parsons is almost a safety. That's how small he is. And Ronnie Lott is a big dude. Like, it's just different. So when people are talking about how great he is. If you put a big guy in front of him and just tell him, hey, just block him, just go right at him, he has a hard time because the physical size of another person can overwhelm him. And you saw that when he played against, I think, the Niners and a couple teams. They got overwhelmed. They overwhelmed him in the Green Bay game. Big guy in front of him, leaning on him. He doesn't look the same. He looks the same when he's in space. He looks the same when he's, quote unquote, maybe that weak side linebacker in the bubble over there, hidden so you can't really get to him. But if he's on the line of scrimmage, it's not the same thing. That's the difference between a Lawrence Taylor and linebackers of the day.
Lawrence could beat a triple team.
We're talking that Lawrence was a stand-up defensive end, basically, is what he was. It's like, and that's hard to play against, and people don't realize when they're looking at him. I'm a big guy, so I got to see him every day in practice. You don't realize what you're looking at when you see guys that big moving that fast, and don't really care. Like he would go to practice, and I used to tell people all the time, he used to wear a scuba suit in the sun. In my mind, I'm like, this dude is crazy.
How about sandals?
A scuba suit. He'd be in a scuba dive suit, like cut off at the knees. Yep. Every year, I'm like, why are you in a dive suit? Get in shape. I'm like, what kind of shape you trying to get in? Like, it was crazy.
He was born that way,
man. It was
really
wild. So when people talk about, I love Michael Parsons. I love listening to him talk and everything. Not the same kind of person.
Not LT. Sorry.
They're like you can name a ton of linebackers out of history that he's not like. Just not like him.
Well, that's what I had to deal with when I around my company's yard in Texas, outside of Dallas, and Michael Parsons, he's gonna be better. I was like, he could never be as good as Lawrence Taylor, and he will never be close to Lawrence Taylor. If they go back and look at his hits and pressures against quarterbacks, he changed the defense.
That's absolutely true.
Every team to this very day is looking for the next Lawrence Taylor.
They still haven't found him.
No.
Thank you, Jerome.
That's pretty funny.
Be well. The only two guys in their prime who could even come onto the same planet as Lawrence Taylor for me, Andre Tippett and Ricky Jackson. And they weren't even LT, but they could at least be on the planet. Tippett,
Pat Swilling. Pat Swilling was an LT type guy.
More of a pass rusher than a run defender.
Yeah, but Tippett was like a monster.
He was as a pure pass rusher, he was incredible.
But he was a huge dude, though. Like people don't like another
Tippett's
guy
from Newark, by the way.
Yeah, another massive human being that was playing out there that should have had his hand in the dirt, but he didn't.
Yep. Real quick, I just want to say this before we go because we're running late. In the last 10 years, outside of Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, the only other quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl are Nick Foles, Peyton Manning, and Matthew Stafford.
Wow.
So let's be real careful about, do we have a quarterback who can win a Super Bowl? That question is in a bubble. There are very few quarterbacks who have won one, especially in the last, recent times. It's not about, you got to have one of those. Because if you want to say you got to have one of those, basically there are 31 teams who don't have one. Mahomes is on Kansas City, and he doesn't play for anybody else. So if you want to ask that question, you might as well just not play.
No, it's more than that. I think the thing we talked about mostly is the reason. Like, if you don't have a good offensive line, nothing happens.
That's the reason.
And if you got to figure out a way to restructure, rebuild that offensive line as quickly as possible, and you can see the difference. You can see how Brock Purdy, when he's no pressure or anything, he looks like this guy's, he's really good. He's super talented. And all of a sudden, Chris Jones is touching him on his cheek. He's like, okay, we're not going to throw the ball over there anymore because you just need an offensive line. If you have a good offensive line, everybody else looks good. Run game, passing game, everything looks good. Quarterback looks great.
Always starts in the trenches hard.
Always.
At Howard Cross 87, at Giants WFAN. That'll do it for today's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here live every weekday from 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time until 1:30 for 1 hour of Giants football. Once again, you can catch an archive of this show on the Giants podcast networks, as well as Giants.com/podcasts. This has been Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Giants. We'll see you next time.
Introducing the Lisa Chill Collection, your answer to hot nights. These mattresses beat the heat with ultra-cool covers, whisking away heat for the perfect sleep temperature. Save up to $460 on Chill mattresses and get 2 free pillows when you shop now. iHeart listeners can save an extra $50 off by visiting lisa.com/iHeart. That's LEESA.com/iHeart. Exclusions apply. See lisa.com for more details.
Looking for a better solution to keep your firearms in high-performance condition? Visit RiptideArmory.com for the most advanced proprietary gun cleaning formula on the market. Right now, get up to $40 off any cleaning kit for a limited time on RiptideArmory.com and take advantage of this amazing deal today. Riptide's 2-step cleaning kit offers state-of-the-art technology and guaranteed satisfaction. Riptide Armory is a veteran-founded business, and you can trust that all chemicals are American-made and quality tested. Shop RiptideArmory.com.